poor mechanic rescued a dying girl, unaware she is a billionaire's daughter. The girl was lying in the bush, her phone still ringing, blood slowly soaking into the red earth, and James almost walked past her. If he had taken just 3 more steps. If he had ignored that strange pull in his chest. If he had not turned back. This story would never have happened. And neither would his life. That evening wind was heavy. The kind that carries bad news. The sky above the long empty highway was turning dark orange, the sun dropping behind distant trees. James wiped sweat from his face with his oil-stained hand and dragged his toolbox along the roadside. He was tired, hungry, and broke. He had only 1,500 Nigerian nairas in his pocket, his entire wealth. A taxi driver had just dropped him there. A client had called earlier, panicking that his car had broken down on the lonely road that led toward the old quarry. The man said he was rushing to the airport and could not wait. He told James to come fix the car and collect payment from the vehicle later. So James had closed his small mechanic shed, boarded a taxi, and traveled all this way with hope in his heart. Hope was all James had left. But the car was not there. He looked up and down the road. Nothing. Just silence. Bushes. Dry wind. Crickets. He checked his phone. No signal. The client's number was unreachable. James sighed. Again, he whispered. Life had been doing this to him for years. Every time hope came, disappointment followed. He turned to walk back toward the main road when he noticed something near the bushes. At first he thought it was a sack. Then he saw the shoe. A woman's shoe. His chest tightened. James dropped his toolbox and ran. There, lying on her side, half inside the bush, was a young woman. Her clothes were dusty, her long hair scattered across her face, her breathing weak and broken. A small cut was on her forehead. Her lips were pale. James knelt down. "Madam, can you hear me?" he whispered, touching her shoulder. No response. He placed 2 fingers on her neck. Her pulse was faint, but it was there. She was alive. For a moment fear rushed through him. He was a poor man. No money. No car. No hospital connections. No one would help him. But something stronger than fear rose in his heart. He could not leave her. He carried her. Her body was light like paper. He staggered, breath heavy, sweat pouring as he lifted her and began walking toward the main road. His muscles burned. His mind screamed. His heart refused to stop. After almost 20 minutes, a bus slowed down. "Stop!" James shouted, waving with all his strength. The driver hesitated when he saw the girl's condition, but the look in James's eyes forced him to open the door. They rushed her to the nearest hospital. James stayed. He waited outside emergency. His clothes were dirty. His stomach twisted with hunger. His heart beat fast. The nurse finally came out. "She will live," she said. James sat down on the floor and cried. James's life before that moment had been a long, quiet struggle. He was not born poor, but poverty came early. His father died when he was in secondary school. His mother, Mama Ruth, became everything: mother, father, worker, fighter, prayer warrior. She washed clothes, sold vegetables, cleaned houses, borrowed money, begged when she had to, and never once complained. James was smart. Very smart. He got into university to study petroleum engineering. But the money was not there. Mama Ruth sold her wrapper, her earrings, her wedding ring. She borrowed from everyone. She worked until her hands cracked. She collapsed twice from stress. James almost dropped out many times. But his mother would hold his face and say, "My son, this suffering will not follow us forever." James graduated. He went to the city with dreams. For 7 years, no job. He knocked on every door. He printed CVs. He begged. He waited. He was rejected again and again. The world did not care that he was educated. The world only saw another poor young man. His mother grew older. Her body weaker. One day James sold his laptop and used the money to start learning mechanic work. It broke his pride. But hunger breaks pride easily. He became a mechanic. And that is how he met the girl in the bush. Back in the hospital, James used his little money to buy her drugs and food. He slept on the chair outside her room. He washed her clothes when nurses allowed him. He fed her when she opened her eyes days later. She looked at him. "Who are you?" she whispered. "My name is James," he said softly. "You are safe." Tears rolled down her face. "My name is Grace." James smiled. He did not know that Grace was the only daughter of the richest man in the city. He only knew that someone needed help. And that small act of kindness was about to change everything. Grace did not remember how she got into the bush. That was the first thing she told James when she finally became strong enough to speak clearly. The hospital room smelled of medicine and hot afternoon sun. Outside, motorcycles passed. Inside, James sat beside her bed holding a paper cup of water. "I don't remember anything," she said, her voice weak but steady. "Not the road, not the fall, not where I was going. I only remember pain, then your face." James swallowed. "That day, you were almost gone." Grace closed her eyes. "If you did not stop," she whispered. James did not answer. He only smiled softly. He had no idea that he had just saved a life that would soon shake the entire city. James continued staying at the hospital. No one came to look for Grace. No phone rang. No visitor arrived. It was as if she had no family at all. He used the last of his money to pay part of the bill. The nurses noticed him. "Is she your wife?" one nurse asked. James shook his head. "No." "Girlfriend?" "No." "Then why are you staying?" James looked at Grace through the glass window of her room. "Because if I leave, nobody else will stay." The nurse went quiet. Days passed. Grace improved. She could sit. She could eat. She could laugh softly. She asked many questions about James. Where he lived. What he did. Why he helped her. James told her everything. About university. About 7 years of rejection. About learning mechanic work. About his mother in the village. About hunger. About hope. Grace listened with tears. "You never gave up," she said. James laughed bitterly. "I wanted to many times." One afternoon, Grace touched his hand. "Thank you for choosing me that day." James looked away. "I just did what anyone should." Grace shook her head. "Most people don't." When the hospital discharged Grace, James had nowhere to take her. He lived in a single small room near the mechanic workshop. The floor was cracked. The roof leaked when it rained. The mattress was thin. There was only one chair. Grace saw the place and smiled. "It is enough," she said. James felt ashamed. He gave her the mattress. He slept on the floor. They shared food. They shared stories. They shared silence. James went to work each day. Grace stayed home, slowly regaining her strength. She helped him wash clothes. She cooked with what little they had. She waited for him in the evenings. One night, rain fell heavily. Water entered the room. They both rushed to save their things. Grace laughed as water splashed her feet. "I have never done this before," she said. James laughed with her. For the first time in many years, James did not feel alone. But in another part of the city, a storm was rising. Mr. Richard Stone, the most powerful businessman in the city, was breaking apart. His daughter Grace had disappeared. The whole city was looking for her. Private investigators. Police. Roadblocks. Cameras. Posters. Rewards. Nothing. Mr. Stone had only one child. His wife had died years ago. Grace was his life. He had not slept. He had not eaten. He stood by the window of his mansion every night, whispering her name. Grace. He blamed himself. He remembered the argument they had that morning. She wanted to live a simple life. She wanted freedom. He wanted protection. He had insisted she move with security. She had refused. Now she was gone. Mr. Stone was losing his mind. One evening, Grace stood by James's door, watching him return from work, his shirt soaked in oil and sweat. "You look tired," she said. James smiled. "That is my daily look." She took the toolbox from his hand. "Sit." I cooked. They ate. They laughed. Grace grew quiet. "James," she said slowly, What if my family is looking for me? James froze. The thought had haunted him too. We can go to the police, he said. Grace shook her head. I'm scared. James nodded. Then we will wait. He did not know that the world was already turning upside down searching for her. Days turned into weeks. Grace's memory slowly returned. She remembered a car, a driver, an argument on the phone, rain, pain, darkness. One morning she woke up crying. I know who I am, she said. James sat up. My father is Mr. Richard Stone. James's heart stopped. The name hit him like thunder. Everyone knew that name. The richest man in the city. Owner of companies, banks, oil fields, estates. James stared at her. You are his daughter? Grace nodded, tears falling. James's mind went blank. The girl in his room, the girl he fed, the girl he rescued. A billionaire's daughter. Fear rushed through him. Grace held his hand. I don't want to go back yet, she said. Not like this. I need time. Please. James was silent. Please, James. He nodded slowly. Okay. He did not know that the decision he made that day would change both their lives forever. That night, James could not sleep. He thought of his mother in the village, still struggling. He thought of the years he lost. He thought of the girl sleeping peacefully on his mattress. Life was preparing something. He could feel it. But he did not know the cost. James woke up before the sun. His small room was quiet except for the sound of Grace's slow breathing on the mattress. Light crept in through the cracked window. The smell of damp earth from last night's rain filled the air. He lay there staring at the ceiling. A billionaire's daughter. The words repeated in his mind like drums. Everything felt unreal. The girl who had washed clothes with him. The girl who ate Gary with him. The girl who laughed when rain flooded the room. Grace Stone. Daughter of the man whose face was on billboards across the city. James slowly sat up. He was afraid. Not of Grace, but of the future. Grace woke later and found James sitting outside the room on the broken chair, staring at nothing. You didn't sleep, she said. James nodded. She joined him. I know you are thinking many things, she said softly. James exhaled. My world is very small, Grace. Your world is too big. Grace looked down at her hands. My father's world is big, she said. Mine is not. James studied her face. Why did you leave him that day? Grace was quiet for a long time. He wants to control my life, she finally said. Every step, every decision, every friend, every future. She paused. I just wanted to breathe. James nodded. I understand that feeling. They sat in silence. Two different worlds touching. Later that day, James went to the workshop. His friend Samuel, another mechanic, noticed his face. You look like a man who saw a ghost, Samuel said. James hesitated. Then he told him. Samuel laughed at first. Then he stopped. You are joking. I'm not. Samuel stared at him. The richest man's daughter is in your house? James nodded. Samuel slowly sat on a tire. My brother, life is not normal. James did not smile. At the mansion across the city, Mr. Stone was getting worse. He had fired 2 security chiefs. He was breaking cups in anger. He had increased the reward for Grace's return. Every minute felt like a year. The city was buzzing with rumors. She was kidnapped. She ran away. She was killed. No one knows. Mr. Stone only prayed. Back in the small room, Grace stood at the door in the evening watching the sun sink behind old buildings. I will go back soon, she said quietly. James's heart tightened. When? He asked. Tomorrow. James nodded. Okay. He did not ask her to stay. He had learned long ago that some things do not belong to him. That night they ate quietly. Grace suddenly laughed. Do you know, she said, this is the happiest I have been in years. James looked at her. Here. She nodded. Here. James did not trust his voice. The next morning, Grace borrowed James's phone and called her father. The silence after she said, "Daddy," almost broke the room. Within an hour, the street exploded. Black cars. Security. Police. Sirens. James stood at the edge of the road watching as Grace was surrounded. Mr. Stone rushed out of the car and grabbed her. "My child, my child." He wept openly. Grace held him. "I'm okay, Daddy." Then she turned and looked at James. Their eyes met. Everything unsaid passed between them. Mr. Stone followed her gaze. "Who is he?" he asked. Grace smiled. "The man who saved my life." Mr. Stone walked toward James. James's knees felt weak. "Thank you," the billionaire said, his voice shaking. James bowed his head. "I only did what was right, sir." Mr. Stone took James's hands in both of his. "You did more than you know." Grace was taken away. The street returned to silence. James returned to his room. The mattress was empty. The chair was still. The world felt too quiet. He lay on the floor and stared at the ceiling. The same ceiling. The same cracks. But everything had changed. 3 days later, a black car arrived at the workshop. Samuel's mouth dropped open. 2 men in suits approached James. "Mr. James Okery?" "Yes." "Our boss would like to see you." James followed them. The city unfolded in front of him. The gates of the mansion opened. James stepped inside a world he had only seen on TV. Grace ran toward him. James froze. Mr. Stone stood behind her. "James," Grace said, smiling. Mr. Stone looked at him. "You saved my only child. I want to change your life." James swallowed. "Sir, I didn't do it for reward." Mr. Stone nodded. "I know. That is why you deserve it." James was offered everything. A house for his mother. A new business. Education. A future. James fell to his knees. Tears rolled down his face. "My mother," he whispered. Mr. Stone smiled. "She will never suffer again." But the biggest change had not yet arrived. Grace and James stood on the balcony later that evening. "Your life is starting," Grace said. James shook his head. "It started the day I stopped and turned back." They both smiled. And fate smiled with them. James did not sleep that night. He was lying on a wide soft bed inside the guest room of the Stone Mansion, staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of air conditioners and distant city traffic. The room was bigger than his entire old house. The sheets smelled of clean soap. The pillows were so soft they felt unreal. But his heart was not calm. All he could see in his mind was his mother. Mama Ruth. Still in the village. Still selling vegetables under the hot sun. Still waking up before dawn. Still telling people, "My son will make it one day." He sat up. If everything that happened today was real, then the first person who must feel it was his mother. Early the next morning, Mr. Stone called James into his private office. The room looked like something from another world. Tall glass windows, shining floors, thick carpets, bookshelves full of files and awards. Mr. Stone sat behind a long desk. Grace stood beside him. "James," Mr. Stone said, "where is your mother?" "In the village, sir." "Then we go to the village today." James froze. "Today?" "Yes." James's heart started beating fast. He thought of the dusty road, the small huts, the cracked walls, the broken chair where his mother always sat, the neighbors who mocked them when he returned from the city with nothing. He nodded slowly. "Yes, sir." The convoy of black vehicles left the city before noon. Grace sat beside James in the car. He had never entered such a vehicle in his life. The seat was soft. Cold air filled the space. Outside, people stared. James's hands were shaking. Grace noticed. "You are scared." James smiled weakly. "I am thinking of my mother's face." Grace held his hand. "She will be proud." They reached the village in the late afternoon. Dust rose as the convoy entered. Children stopped playing. Women dropped their baskets. Men stood up. Nobody had ever seen such cars in their village. James's heart was beating so hard it hurt. The car stopped. James stepped down. The village was quiet. Then someone shouted, "James." It was Mama Ruth. She was standing in front of their old house, holding a bowl of cassava. Her wrapper was faded. Her feet were dusty. Her face looked tired. James walked toward her slowly. "Mama." She dropped the bowl and ran. "My son." They collided in the middle of the compound. She held him, crying loudly. "I thought you were suffering in the city," she sobbed. "I was praying for you." James cried too. "I'm here now, Mama." Mr. Stone and Grace watched. Mr. Stone's eyes were wet. James turned to his mother. "Mama, this is Grace." Grace bowed. "Good evening, Mama." Mama Ruth wiped her tears and smiled. "You are welcome, my daughter." Then James pointed at Mr. Stone. "This is her father." Mr. Stone stepped forward. "Good evening, Mama Ruth." She nodded politely. Then James said the words that changed everything. "Mama, I saved her life." Mama Ruth's face froze. Grace spoke gently. "Your son found me dying on the road. He saved me. If not for him, I would not be alive." Mama Ruth slowly looked at James. She placed her hands on his face. "My son," she whispered, "God has seen your suffering." She lifted her eyes to the sky. "Thank you, Lord." That evening, the village gathered. Mr. Stone made an announcement. He promised a new house for Mama Ruth. He promised a business for James. He promised help for the village. The elders cried. The women danced. The children sang. Mama Ruth sat on the ground shaking, unable to speak. James knelt beside her. "Mama, I told you, suffering will not follow us forever." She held his face and kissed his forehead. "My son, you did not give up." That night, as the village celebrated, James and Grace stood under the stars. "This place is beautiful," Grace said. James nodded. "It raised me." Grace looked at him. "It saved me." They smiled. Their worlds had crossed. And nothing would ever be the same again. The village did not sleep that night. Drums sounded until morning. Women sang songs that had not been sung in years. Children chased one another under moonlight. Old men sat around fires telling stories of miracles and long-forgotten dreams. At the center of it all was Mama Ruth, seated on a wooden stool, her tired eyes shining with tears and laughter at the same time. People kept coming to greet her. "God has remembered you. Your son is blessed. Your suffering has turned into glory." She only nodded, still in shock. James stayed close to her side. Every time he looked at her face, his chest felt heavy. All those years of struggle. All those nights she went to bed hungry so he could eat. All the insults they endured. All the prayers she whispered when no one was watching. And now this. Grace moved around the compound, greeting villagers, laughing with children, sitting with the women, listening to their stories. She had never felt such warmth. Mr. Stone watched everything quietly from a distance. His eyes never left Grace for long. For years he had locked her inside a golden cage, afraid the world would hurt her. Now he was seeing another world, one that had saved her. The next morning, Mr. Stone called James and Mama Ruth together. He sat under the mango tree beside their old house. "Mama Ruth," he said gently, "your son saved my only child. There is nothing I will not do for him and for you." Mama Ruth shook her head. "Sir, my son only did what God asked him to do." Mr. Stone smiled. "That is why he will never suffer again." He turned to James. "James, I want to build you a new home here. And another in the city. I want you to return to school if you wish. I want you to choose any business you like. I want your mother to live in peace." James's lips trembled. "Mama." She held his hand tightly. "My son. God has done this." James nodded, tears running freely. But destiny was not finished. When the convoy returned to the city, James did not go back to the workshop. He followed Mr. Stone to his office. For the first time in his life, James entered a corporate building not as a cleaner, not as a beggar, but as a guest. Executives stared. Workers whispered. Grace walked beside him. Inside the office, Mr. Stone introduced James to his board members. "This young man saved my daughter's life. From today, he is under my protection." James felt like he was dreaming. Days passed quickly. Mama Ruth moved into a new house in the village. Workers started building a bigger one. The village got a borehole. A small clinic. James enrolled for professional training in engineering again. Mr. Stone personally supervised it. Grace visited James often. They talked for hours. About life. About pain. About dreams. About love. One evening on the balcony of the mansion, Grace spoke softly. "James, when I was lying in that bush, I was ready to die." James looked at her. "But you stopped." She smiled. "You didn't even know me." James shrugged. "I only knew someone needed me." Grace's eyes filled with tears. "That is why my heart followed you." James's breath caught. Their eyes met. Something deep and new was born. But not everyone was happy. Whispers spread in the city. The billionaire's daughter and a poor mechanic. It will never happen. He is using her. He is not from her world. James heard it all. It hurt. Grace heard it too. She did not care. One afternoon, Grace took James to her mother's grave. "My mother always believed in simple love," Grace said. "Not wealth. Not class. Just heart." James knelt. "I promise to protect your daughter," he whispered. Grace held his hand. Months later, James stood at the stage receiving his new engineering certification. Mama Ruth was in the front row crying. Mr. Stone was smiling proudly. Grace was shining. The poor mechanic was now a respected engineer. But James never forgot the bush. He never forgot hunger. He never forgot pain. He never forgot that one small act of kindness had changed everything. And destiny was still writing their story. The city had begun to know James. Not as the poor mechanic anymore. Not as the boy from the dusty village. But as the young engineer under the shadow of Mr. Richard Stone. New clothes covered his body. Clean shoes touched the marble floors of offices. People greeted him with respect. They smiled. They listened when he spoke. But inside James, the old fears still lived. Every night, when the lights of the city went quiet, James remembered the long road, the hunger, the rejection, the cold nights, and the sound of his mother crying softly when she thought he was asleep. And now, Grace. Grace was changing everything. They spent more time together. Sometimes they walked through the quiet gardens of the mansion. Sometimes they sat in the car watching city lights. Sometimes they just talked on the phone until sleep took over. They never said the word love. But it lived between them. One evening, Grace invited James to join her at a charity event. The hall was large, bright, filled with important people. Politicians. Business owners. Wealthy families. James stood at the entrance feeling like his heart would jump out of his chest. Grace noticed. "Come," she whispered. She held his hand and walked in. Heads turned. Whispers started. "That is him. The one who saved her. He used to be a mechanic. Can he really belong here?" James could hear everything. His hand shook in Grace's. She squeezed it gently. "You belong with me," she said. They sat together. A woman approached Grace and smiled. "Grace, dear. Who is this?" Grace looked at James and then back at her. "This is James. My friend." James nodded politely. The woman's smile was thin. "How interesting." When she left, James lowered his head. "I don't fit here," he said quietly. Grace turned to him. "James, I was dying in a bush. This place means nothing." Later that night, they sat on the balcony of the mansion. The city lights looked like stars below them. Grace spoke first. "James, do you believe in fate?" James shrugged. "I believe in hard work. And God." Grace smiled. "God sent you to me." James laughed nervously. "Grace." She turned to him fully. "James, I don't care what anyone says. I don't care about class, wealth, background. I care about the man who carried me when I could not walk." James's chest tightened. Grace, your world is heavy, he said. My life has been light and broken. I don't want to bring you into pain. Grace's eyes shone. You already carried me out of pain. Silence fell. The wind moved around them. James looked at her face. The soft light touched her eyes. Grace, he whispered. She leaned closer. Yes. I think I love you. Her breath caught. She smiled slowly. I know. But love was not the only thing growing. Fear was growing too. In the shadows of wealth and power, not everyone wished them well. Mr. Stone noticed the closeness. He said nothing at first. He watched. He listened. He worried. One afternoon, Mr. Stone called James to his office. James, he said calmly, how do you feel about my daughter? James's heart jumped. I respect her deeply. Mr. Stone's eyes were sharp. And more. James hesitated. Then he stood straight. I love her, sir. The room went quiet. Mr. Stone slowly leaned back. Love is heavy, James. I know. Can you protect her from this world? James's voice did not shake. I will protect her with my life. Mr. Stone studied him for a long time. You are brave, he said. But the world is cruel. James nodded. I know. That night, Grace and James sat on the rooftop. Daddy spoke to you, Grace said. James nodded. She sighed. He is scared. James took her hand. So am I. She looked at him. Of what? Losing you. Grace's eyes softened. You won't. They stayed there until dawn. Across the city, whispers became stronger. Enemies noticed James's rising influence. Old rivals of Mr. Stone watched quietly. The poor mechanic had stepped into a world of power. And the world was not gentle. The city did not sleep on rumors. Once the story of James and Grace began to move through boardrooms, clubs, and quiet offices, it spread like harmattan fire. Some people admired it. Many hated it. And a few powerful people decided to use it. James began to feel the pressure. At the engineering firm where he was now working under Mr. Stone's influence, some staff smiled at him in the morning and mocked him behind his back. That's the mechanic boyfriend. He climbed with the billionaire's daughter. Let's see how long he lasts. James heard the words. They cut deep. But every evening, when Grace's voice came through the phone, the pain softened. One morning, James was driving toward the construction site of a new company project when his car was blocked by another vehicle. 3 men stepped out. Their clothes were clean. Their faces were calm. Mr. James Okery, one said. Yes. We have a message for you. James's heart beat fast. Stay away from Grace Stone. James looked at them. And if I don't? The man smiled. Life has a way of becoming difficult. They drove away. James sat there shaking. That night, he told Grace everything. Her face turned pale. They are trying to scare you. James nodded. I am scared. Grace took his hands. Don't leave me. James looked at her. I won't. The pressure grew. Articles appeared online questioning James's background. Old classmates came forward with fake stories. People said he was using Grace. People said he was dangerous. Mr. Stone noticed. He confronted James. This world is not gentle, James. James lowered his head. I will endure it. One evening, James returned to the mansion and found Grace crying. They said you are only with me because of money, she whispered. James's heart broke. He wiped her tears. I would still love you if you were selling oranges on the road. Grace smiled through tears. I know. They held each other tightly. The next day, Mama Ruth arrived from the village. James rushed to her. Mama. She held his face. My son, the village is talking about you. Some are praising you. Some are jealous. James sighed. Mama Ruth's voice became firm. Do not be afraid of their noise. A good heart always wins. James nodded. But destiny had one more test. One night, James received a call. His mother had collapsed. He rushed to the village. She was lying on the bed, weak. "My son," she whispered, "promise me one thing." "Yes, Mama." "Do not let fear destroy your happiness." Tears rolled down James's face. "I promise." She smiled and slept. Days later, Mama Ruth recovered. James returned to the city stronger. He stood beside Grace with new courage. No matter the whispers. No matter the threats. No matter the fear. Love had chosen its path. And the world was about to see it. The pressure around James and Grace did not reduce. It became heavier. Louder. James felt like the whole city was watching his every step. At work, some colleagues avoided him. Others pretended to be friendly. A few openly mocked him. "You're lucky, man." "From grease to gold," one engineer laughed. James forced a smile. Inside, his heart was tired. Grace noticed the change. "James, you're not sleeping," she said one night as they sat in the mansion garden. "I am just thinking," he replied. "Thinking is good," she said. "But not when it steals your peace." James looked at her. "Grace, do you ever regret meeting me?" Her eyes widened. "Never. Your life would be easier without me." She stood up, walked to him, and placed both hands on his face. "My life would be empty without you." His throat tightened. That week, the biggest blow came. A popular news channel published a story. "Mechanic turned billionaire's daughter's lover. Is it love or lust for power?" Pictures of James from the workshop years ago were splashed online. His torn clothes. His greasy hands. His old room. The city laughed. James saw it. He felt his world sink. Grace saw it too. She rushed to him. "James, listen to me." James interrupted. "I am not ashamed of my past," he said. "But I am tired." Grace held him. "I will speak." The next morning, Grace called a press meeting. James begged her not to. She insisted. They stood together before cameras. Grace's voice was calm. "This man saved my life when I was dying in a bush. He fed me when I was weak. He protected me when I had nothing. If that makes him unworthy, then this world is blind." The hall went quiet. James felt tears burn his eyes. Grace turned to him. "James is my heart." The city exploded. But the real storm came later that night. James was driving home when a truck suddenly blocked the road. His car was hit from behind. It spun. He hit his head. Everything went black. When he woke up, Grace was crying beside him. The hospital lights were bright. Mr. Stone stood near the bed, his face dark. "The doctor says you will be okay," Grace said, holding his hand. James whispered, "Who did this?" Mr. Stone's voice was hard. "My enemies." Grace looked at her father. "Daddy, they tried to kill him." Mr. Stone nodded. "I know." James closed his eyes. So this was the price of loving a billionaire's daughter. Mr. Stone increased security around James. He moved him into the mansion. James hated feeling trapped, but he knew it was necessary. Grace stayed close. They spent long nights talking, holding hands, making plans. James whispered one night, "Grace, will your father ever accept me?" Grace smiled. "He already does." Weeks later, James returned to work. Stronger. Calmer. The city's noise slowly faded. The truth had spoken louder. People began to respect him. One evening, Mr. Stone called James and Grace. "I have a proposal," he said. James looked at Grace. Grace smiled. Mr. Stone continued, "I want you both to stop hiding." James swallowed. "What do you mean, sir?" Mr. Stone stood up. "It is time the world knows this story properly." James's heart beat fast. The storm had not destroyed them. It had prepared them. The morning Mr. Stone spoke those words, the air inside the mansion felt different. It is time the world knows this story properly. James did not understand at first. Grace did. She smiled. For weeks, she had watched her father fight fear for her. Fight power. Fight the past. Fight his own heart. And now he was ready. 2 days later, invitations went out. Major newspapers, TV stations, business leaders, city officials, influencers, religious leaders, village chiefs, everyone. They were called to the Stone Event Center. The title of the event was simple: A Story of Life, Kindness, and Purpose. James barely slept. He kept seeing himself in that bush, carrying Grace, thinking she was about to die. How could that small moment lead here? The hall was full. Lights. Cameras. Silence. Mr. Stone stepped onto the stage. His voice was steady. My daughter Grace was missing. Many of you know that. What many of you do not know is how she survived. He told the story. About the lonely road. About the dying girl. About the poor mechanic. About the hospital. About the small room. About the kindness. About James. The hall was quiet. Then Grace joined him. She spoke. My life belongs to this man. She held James's hand. James's heart shook. Then Mr. Stone said the words that broke the silence of the city. James Oakery is not just a good man. He is my son. The hall exploded. People gasped. James froze. Grace smiled through tears. Mr. Stone turned to James. I lost my wife many years ago. Today I choose my son. James's knees almost failed him. After that day, everything changed. The same people who mocked James now praised him. The same doors that were closed were now open. But James did not let it change him. He returned to the village often. He built schools. He built clinics. He created jobs. He never forgot where he came from. One evening, James and Grace walked through the village. Mama Ruth sat outside her new house, smiling. My children, she said. James knelt. Mama, your prayers carried me here. Grace hugged her. Mama Ruth looked at them and laughed. Love is stronger than poverty. Weeks later, James stood before Mr. Stone. I want to marry Grace, he said. Mr. Stone did not hesitate. Then prepare. James's breath caught. Grace cried. The world that once doubted them was now preparing to celebrate them. The news of James's proposal to Grace moved through the city faster than rain before a storm. Some people smiled. Some people whispered. Some people shook their heads in disbelief. But nobody could stop it. Not anymore. The preparation for the wedding began quietly at first. Mr. Stone did not want noise. He wanted meaning. He called James into his private study one evening and placed a heavy hand on his shoulder. James, he said, you walked into my daughter's life through pain. You stayed through danger. You did not run when fear came. That is what a man does. James swallowed. I will spend my whole life proving you right. Mr. Stone nodded. I know. Grace and James began to plan their future together. They walked through the gardens talking about their dream house. They laughed about how they would mix village life and city life. They argued playfully about what their children would call Mama Ruth and Mr. Stone. James wanted a simple ceremony. Grace wanted both worlds together. They agreed. The wedding would take place in the village first, where James's life was shaped, and later in the city, where Grace's life had begun. The village exploded with joy when the news arrived. Women screamed. Men danced. Children ran from house to house. Mama Ruth sat quietly and cried. My God, she whispered, you remembered me. But destiny always keeps one more test. One evening, James was called urgently to the office. Mr. Stone's face was tight. There is a problem, he said. James's heart dropped. Some of my partners are threatening to pull out of our new project if this wedding goes forward. They say it damages their image. James felt something break inside him. Mr. Stone looked at him. I told them they are free to go. James stared. You didn't have to. Mr. Stone raised his hand. I will never choose money over my children. James's eyes filled with tears. Grace rushed in. What happened? Mr. Stone smiled. Nothing that can stop love. The city wedding preparations continued. Designers came. Tailors worked day and night. Security was increased. But the heart of the celebration was still the village. James and Grace traveled their weeks before the ceremony. They walked the dusty road together. Grace held James's hand and smiled. "I love this place," she said. "It is where I learned how to survive," James replied. "It is where I learned how to live," Grace said. On the eve of the wedding, James went to see his mother. She was sitting alone, looking at the stars. "Mama," he said. She turned and smiled. "My son, tomorrow you become a husband." James knelt. "All I am is because of you." She touched his face. "And all I suffered was for today." They held each other for a long time. That night, James stood outside alone. He remembered the bush, the dying girl, the empty pocket, the broken dreams. He closed his eyes. Tomorrow, love would speak louder than all of it. The sun rose slowly over the village, and for the first time in many years, the village did not wake up to struggle. It woke up to hope. Drums echoed from one end of the dusty road to the other. Women tied their wrappers with pride. Men gathered under the old mango tree. Children ran around shouting James's name. The entire village was dressed in celebration. This was not just a wedding day. This was the closing of a long chapter of pain. James stood inside the small room that used to be his world. His old cracked walls were still there, but new paint covered them. The broken roof was gone. The floor was now smooth. A mirror hung on the wall. James looked at his reflection. He did not see a poor mechanic anymore. He saw a man who had walked through hunger, rejection, shame and pain, and still chose kindness. Mama Ruth entered quietly. "My son." James turned. She was dressed in beautiful fabric, her face glowing. "Mama." She held his hands. "Today, your life is sealed with joy." James's voice shook. "If I did not stop that day, if I did not turn back." She touched his chest. "You obeyed your heart. And your heart obeyed God." James hugged her tightly. In the next compound, Grace was being prepared. Women sang around her. They brushed her hair. They decorated her hands. Her eyes were wet. She whispered, "I was dying. Now I am getting married." One woman laughed. "That is life, my daughter." Grace smiled. The ceremony began under the open sky. The village ground was full. When James walked out, the people stood. When Grace appeared, the world went silent. She was glowing. James's breath left him. They walked toward each other. James remembered the bush, the blood, the fear, the hospital, the small room, the laughter, the tears. Grace remembered the pain, the darkness, the hands that carried her, the voice that said, "You are safe." They held hands. The elder spoke. "Today, we witness the reward of kindness." They were pronounced husband and wife. The village exploded in joy. Later that day, the city ceremony followed. Wealth met humility. Power met simplicity. The billionaire stood beside the poor boy he now called son. Mama Ruth sat in the front row, shaking with joy. James and Grace walked the red carpet of their new life. That night, as fireworks lit the sky, James whispered to Grace, "If I had all the money in the world and no heart, I would still be poor." Grace smiled. "You saved my life. And love saved yours." They held each other as the sky burned with color. James never became proud. He built schools. He opened mechanic centers for young boys. He paid school fees for children in the village. He took his mother everywhere with him. Grace remained gentle. Mr. Stone remained grateful. The village remained blessed. All because one poor mechanic stopped on a lonely road. Kindness opened a door that money could never buy. And love finished what suffering started.